Hello everybody, it's me, your DBI admin, Magic Paper, and today I'm doing another review. Now this is for a log that was yesterday for Halloween that I dubbed the second movie called The Pumpkin King. It's called a movie because the canon events of this movie are fishy and debatable, only because it's to allow for people to come and show up when their characters are otherwise busy or cannot show up. And this is a perfect example, even though it was brief. Jean is currently in prison, but for the amount of time that Jean was there, she was allowed to be in the event, even though her actual character is in prison. Unfortunately, Jean had to go, but I will get into that in just a second. Hi, this is post-recording Magic Paper. And I just want to say that I did not go into this, so I'm going to get into it right now. Jean had work at 4 in the morning. Sorry, Hiazi, that fucking sucks. And had to go because they would have had to have left at 10 p.m., which, at the rate we were going at the time, was taking way too long for us to do anything meaningful, which is why I had to speed up a lot of things. So unfortunately, Jean had to leave due to work reasons, but it's okay. I'm not mad at Hiazi. I'm just glad they showed up even for a little bit. If you haven't already, I suggest watching the video I created yesterday, or I guess 2 days ago, but released yesterday, about the events before the log, of basically explaining what happened and why the characters are going to this place called the Ebon Spire. But if you haven't, I'll do a quick breakdown. This thing that dubbed itself the Pumpkin King landed into the docking bay or cargo bay or wherever and flooded the station with minions of candy corn kind. And that is the reason why these characters are traveling to the space station. These characters are Genesis, Saliath, Jean briefly, and Shed. However, Genesis was already there on the lowest level. Shed was already there on the lowest level. Jean and Saliath came together, and they all met up in a hallway. They were all kind of just scrambling to get through. So when they meet up, they're like, "Okay, we got to figure this out." And I thought it was kind of funny. But at first, Saliath thought the whole thing was like a haunted house or like an attraction set up for the entire space station. He also wanted coffee. He was trying to find a coffee maker, but there was nothing he could do about that. But he quickly realizes that it's not a haunted house after they're attacked, and he tries eating these candy corn things. So does Shed. So they both try eating these monsters, these creatures, only to find out they are robotic in nature. They were androids, each one. They were all the same. They were made of metal, oil, and other android materials that exist. And I thought that was really funny that he wanted to do that. Like, it wasn't supposed to be super serious, right? Like, my whole idea behind this thing was to have a lot of fun. It could be goofy, it could be serious, it could be jovial, doesn't matter. I set the scene. Characters can do whatever the hell they want. I thought it was great that each character took different approaches that I really enjoyed. Particularly with Saliath. I liked that he thought it was a haunted house and thought it was an attraction of sorts and was just going through it for that reason. For Genesis, he was there drunk off his ass, drinking in the bar that they had. And for Shed, I'd like to talk about that for a second. Talk about him. Now, I had a general outline for this log that I wanted to do. There were several puzzles and things I wanted to get done. I wanted to explore the station more, but I had to kind of push them forward because we didn't have enough time. I did allow as much as possible for Shed to go through maintenance shafts and routes and vents that took him to a different route, and let him do what he wanted to do, because he wanted to blow the space station up, which I would have let him if we had time given. Or if we just had the time, I would have let him go through with whatever he wanted to do. Although the Ebon Spire is, in my mind, the second largest space station in the verse, being smaller than Legend, but still very fucking large. And so I let him do this. I let him explore through the vents and shafts, and at some point he gets attacked by the candy corn minions from before. He was found out in the vents, and he had to take a different route. But I'll get to that. That's later. And I guess this is a good time to explain how the Ebon Spire works. So in the image I'm using as reference material, the Ebon Spire has 3 rings. that has the lower ring, as you can see in the image right here, the middle ring, and then the upper ring. The lower ring acts as a tourist attraction. Amenities, bars, shops, the cargo bay, the hanging bay, the hangar bay, the cargo bay, the hangar bay, and other similar things down there. Alongside all of that, there's definitely places for there to be shady dealings, which is why Shed was there, which I'm fine with. It's a big ass space station. There's going to be some shady things going on regardless. Shady dealings and restaurants and all that sort of stuff just there at the bottom of the spire. This is where everyone can get access to. Usually, I would assume you have to have a pass or invitation of some kind to go up to the upper levels. And even for some places on the bottom level might require you to have notified people beforehand or get a permit to go to some other areas in the bottom level. But that's for another time. The middle ring, that's where everything else is. So science, diplomacy, meetings, medical centers, all that sort of stuff is on the middle rings. Usually meant for other workers or emergency services for the lower levels, but generally it's for people who are given access to level 2 and can walk around freely in those areas. Now, I imagine that there is different key cards for different parts of level 2. Like, if you're working in the science center, you're also going to have access to medical stuff. But if you're not doing anything with diplomacy or unrelated research, then I don't think you would be able to get access to those without specific key cards, but I didn't have enough time to really explore that kind of thing in the log itself. Unlike the image, though, how I see the rings is a little bit different. So the bottom ring would be the largest. The middle ring would be the second small. Would be the middle. It would be, it's the middle ring. It'd be about the middle part, and the upper ring would be the largest, or would be the smallest. Upper ring is strictly for things that involve the Ebon Spire. So broadcasting, like across the universe to its stations. So it would be stuff like broadcasting, the command center, like personal military affairs that they might have for security reasons, and other things like that up there. And there are several, and unlike this image, there are several elevators that go from the bottom ring to the upper ring in different locations. There's the same amount of elevators on every floor. So for example, if there was 8 elevators on the bottom, there'd be 8 elevators going to the top. But you need specific key cards and access to get to those higher floors and specific areas. But I did go through the key card thing. That's the one thing I kept, but I didn't have enough time to explore different types of key cards besides ones that go to upper floors. But that's okay. Again, it's how it is when you don't have a lot of time. Now, I wanted to do puzzles for each floor as well. A simple puzzle for each floor to get a key card to unlock the next level. But again, due to time constraints, I could not do that. However, I did do something kind of fun. I went around the ring, the circle, to ask people if they wanted heads or tails, and I'd do coin flips, and depending on the result, one of two things would happen. One, for example, Seliath failed his coin flip, so the minion he killed, one of the minions he killed explodes into a spree of candy. But then I asked Shed if he wanted heads or tails, and he passed. He picked tails, I believe, and he got tails. So the key card came jutting out of the minion and landing onto the table. And then later on, I asked Genesis if he wanted heads or tails, and he won his. I think he wanted heads, and it landed on heads. I don't remember. It was really late last night. But he passed his, and then the key card shot out of that minion into the wall. So at least I got to do that. It's a little convenient, but you know what? It's a movie. It can be convenient all at once for the purpose of the story. So I've kind of derailed now a little bit, but I wanted to get the Ebon Spire explained and out of the way. So cafeteria area where Sal was trying to get coffee. It didn't really work out the way he wanted to. So floods of minions, a horde of minions, kind of comes out of the vents, the floor, from under tables, from wherever, as ordered by the Pumpkin King because he was watching them. They pretty much run through them quickly. This is where Shed gets the first key card from one of the minions. It's where the candy explodes for Seliath, like I mentioned earlier. and they kind of all just blow them up and destroy them and melt them. Some of them explode. One of my I don't have it pulled up here, but one of my favorite things I did yesterday was like something like Genesis plowed through those candy corn minions like they were third graders going against the Incredible Hulk. I thought that was kind of funny for me to do. I don't know if anyone else found that funny, but I'm sure as hell I did. So they end up going to the second floor. Genesis kind of barrels down the doors to the elevator, and they go up, and they're trying to figure out, well, should we go to the research center or like diplomacy to check for hostages? But I made it very clear that they were on the other sides of the ring, so they would only be able to go to one, but it doesn't really work out that way because they hear stomping up above them. And this is where Shed's in the maintenance shaft going up, and he can see him plowing through metal. They don't notice him. Get closer, and Salias like, okay, I'm gonna blow the shit out of the floors. So Sal shoots the floor, it goes boom, and they kind of barrel out, and these things look like the candy corn pumpkins from like the Brock's bags. And they start rolling around at high speeds, ping-ponging across the hallway. The hallways are big enough for a large amount of people to go through, so they had space to dodge, but there wasn't like a lot of space to dodge. And these things were bouncing around, hitting the ceilings that weren't exploded. And one of them catches on fire. Sal dents one of them that Genesis grabs onto and throws halfway or all the way across the floor through multiple walls. Thought that was kind of cool. And then the other one was swung by a hammer, which is the one that was on fire. Sal hit it with a hammer, flew down the hallway around the bend, and exploded into a bunch of pieces. So then the key card that Genesis gets shoots out of the one that he threw across the ring into the other side. And now you're wondering, how does that happen? Well, the hallways are big, so there's multiple rooms available. In the image, it looks kind of small, but I really kind of meant like across the hallway. But it was far enough that it could work out in the way that I wanted. Because despite this image, they're very fucking big. Like, the rings are huge in general, even if the middle ring is the second largest or second smallest, depending on how you see it. I still think that there's enough space for it to go boom, 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 boom. Anyways, they go up to the last floor, and this is where they meet up with the Pumpkin King. He is waiting for them. He knows. He's been watching them the entire time. And there's a character here that I didn't bring up because I wanted to save it for now. So Shed has an NPC with him called Riku. Not Riku from Kingdom Hearts, but Riku, like Reecku. And they've kind of been there. The big thing that they did was during the second floor, they created like a shadow guard or shadow veil or shadow aura thing that would protect people from a fatal blow. But the Pumpkin King's like, I've been seeing you guys. I've been watching. And there's one thing I want to do. And I'm not turning on the voice changer for this. I don't want to deal with that right now. But he vanishes, leaving an after image, and goes after Riku, stabbing him several times. But before he can die, Genesis steps in and is like, hey, hell no, I'm too drunk for this shit. And then I'm going to hit you with a fist of drunken power, and punches this motherfucker, the fucking king, straight through the walls again. Again, same kind of thing from the other rings. There's enough space to kind of just go boom, 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 boom before hitting the outer walls and going into space. And he gets back up, and he is pissed. There's a hole in his chest, oil and other materials seeping out of him. And he calls his minions that are there, and they all swarm and kind of like absorb into him, healing him, mending his wounds, melding his metal back together. And he becomes this freak of nature, 4 legs, 2 bulking arms. His head's the same, but he's this freak of nature. And he goes barreling towards Genesis at full speed, angry as hell. And Genesis grabs him. And because of what happened to Riku, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Before he's flung into the wall, Shed also attacks with the purple dagger that he channeled or something. And that also went into the attack before he got flung into the walls. So he gets back out. Shed's kind of like trying to help his brother, and Genesis holds up the Pumpkin King, stopping him from moving because the Pumpkin King is very immobile right now because of the 4 legs and the way he's shaped now. He kind of can't really maneuver himself. And Sal goes Super Saiyan and punches this thing through the ceiling right before the edge of going into space and sets it on fire, and it melts and dies. I'm very proud of everyone for this event. We were role playing for almost 6 hours. This whole thing took 6 hours almost. We finished at like, God, what was it, like 12:40, and it was just, everyone was tired. So that's a thing. I'm very proud of everyone though. It was really good. I liked the narrative we all took, and I had to railroad Shed, unfortunately, to stop doing what he was doing because we didn't have enough time to do his side plot. I was really happy that he was doing a side plot though. It really took away from the main event, and that's not a bad thing. I really actually liked that. So when after he was climbing through the vents, remember how I said he got attacked by candy corn minions? He took a different route, which led him to the upper ring. Which, my personal opinion, I think that it's possible that there are ways to get into the upper ring from maintenance shafts from the second ring and to the third one, but not from the first. I really like the bit at the end too, where I was like, before we end it, guys, let's get Sal his coffee. And there was break rooms and stuff up there, which is funny. Because actually, no, I'm not going to spoil the bit. I'm not going to spoil the bit. I want you guys to go read the bit. But he does find a coffee maker, but the bit itself is very funny. High marks for everyone. I'm really proud of everyone. No negatives. No negatives. I really like the way Shed brought in an NPC. No one else did that, which I'm not going to expect them to. But it really made for an interesting scenario where this character, Riku, was involved in the process. They didn't really fight. They were just they were acting as a support character, which is great. It's nice to have that, and it really added to the whole thing, I think. Now, I want to go into some other things that I wanted to talk about as well. I didn't really get to go into this in the log because, again, time constraints, budget cuts, you know. The Pumpkin King, you know, Sal was like, oh, but I'm going to damn your creator or whatever. The cool thing is that I wish I could have gone into this more, but the Pumpkin King comes from an abandoned facility that willed itself to life and used the facility's functions to create himself a body, and then created a mass army of candy corn minions and creatures. And he was still working on them in the space station. He was for Talon events. He was there for 5 hours before anyone showed up, so he had 5 hours to make extra minions, even though some of them went unfinished. He still had a bunch of extra ones that he was creating while he was there. I wish I could have gone into that, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm telling you now. Another thing is that I think I want the space station itself to be canon. It sits in an asteroid belt, moving along with it at the same pace, and it's strong enough that if an asteroid hits it, it kind of just bounces off. In the image it shows there's a planet below, but no, I think it's a lot cooler for it to be in a more dangerous territory like an asteroid belt, because it kind of makes it harder for a lot of people to kind of invade or take over, and that's not really reflected with the Pumpkin King, but again, the movie content doesn't matter. So I would like to officially say that the Ebon Spire, I think, is a really cool idea that I would like to bring into the canon as a very large space station, second to Legend. Maybe there will be pushback on this. I don't think so. I think it's just cool to have a space station that's a bunch of rings, and I still need to develop it more, but I think there's a lot of cool concepts you can do here and bring into the setting by allowing this to be here. So that's my reasoning behind this. And for the moment, the events of what happens in the log or movie, however you want to call it, again, are debatable in the canon. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, there is something else I would like to do to the participants and allow myself to give them something. But that'll be done in private, and it's going to be the same item, I think. But I kind of want to do what Nigmus did with his stuff, or Nigmus. I'm not really sure how to pronounce your name. I've never really knew how to say it. But I kind of want to do like a token thing to show that it happened. And the fuzziness behind it for each character is a plot device. Again, which I think could be interesting, but I'm not sure what that is yet. And I'd like to discuss that with the people involved in private. That's pretty much everything I have to say about this. I've already awarded the log as soon as we were finished, so I don't have to do that. And as far as everything goes, this is the last thing I have to do. So I'm signing out. This is the end of my review and my talk. Have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.